Awake Israel.
Hey, well, Shalom Israel. Shalom Israel.
Shalom.
Hey, that's Agadan with Awaken Israel, and who else we got?
Who? You know who I am.
But you're supposed to like scratch with it. You know what I'm saying? Man? You know what I'm saying, bro? You gotta give yourself a proper intro, man.
Yeah, man. Hype me up. No, I'm messing. I'm gonna humble me quick.
Big Og Judah Dick, man. My big Og Judah Dick. Well, tonight we're gonna we're gonna go over some scriptures. It's going to be mainly we just want to get the gist of a historical story, something that we can understand, and something that we can likely glean from even today. And so, as a matter of fact, we're going to do a little bit of movie time first.
Fair use.
Fair use for sure. Let me try to get this right.
For bro, my English is dying, bro. It's really dying. What?
Educational purposes only? Is that what it is?
I can't say that word out.
Hey, man. Educational purposes only. So won't be that long, but like I said, we'll go ahead and kick it off this way.
Sorry, the big difference with a year ago, I would say, Terry, is that there's a lot of things that have happened in the armed forces and in the defense organizations. What hasn't happened is in our societies the understanding that it is more than the military that has to be able to operate in a conflict or in a war. It is the whole of society that will get involved, whether we like it or not. That realization, we didn't talk about that much a year ago. If you look back to last year, what has happened in our alliance with regard to the battle groups that we set up, if you look back to the training, the fact that we now have Steadfast Defender with 90,000 troops, that is a record number. That is a record number of troops that we can bring to bear and have an exercise with in that size. Across the alliance, across the ocean, from the US to Europe, in Europe. That is a big change.
AFP and then at the back.
All right, so guess I'm gonna ask my question, and this is one of the generals of the NATO alliance, military alliance.
Thanks a lot.
NATO was North American Trade Organization.
I guess for Admiral Bow or for General Cavalli.
People find it
No, it can't be North American. That's wrong.
a surprise, and as a result buy a radio on batteries. That is great. It is part of the package that the Swedish government is talking about. You need to have water, you need to have a radio on batteries, and you need to have a flashlight on batteries to make sure that you can survive the first 36 hours. Things like that. That's simple things. But it starts there. The realization that not everything is plannable, not everything is going to be honky-dory in the next 20 years. I'm not saying it is going wrong tomorrow, but we have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace. And that's why we have the plans.
Thank you all very much. That's all we have time
All right.
for this session.
Oops. Where's my cancel button? Stop share. All right. So again, that's one of the generals of NATO. I think I definitely got that wrong with that acronym is, but I'm sure y'all know. I don't though. But apparently, I wanted to play that just because he mentioned some things that we don't normally think about very often, and that is we all know, we believers, we all understand that we believe that we are in the end times or near the end times. Scripturally, we have a hint about all of the things that are going to go down there. We see go down during that time. We see so many things that are happening right now, and certainly to me and many others that I speak to, even people that are not believers, look at that and they acknowledge that, okay, hey, look, hold up, this is different. This is not like normal stuff. Things are changing. But most of us don't want to believe that things are changing because it's so, even though things are challenging in our lives, it's still so comfortable and convenient, the lives that we live. We simply can't even imagine anything different. We have kids, we have adults that don't know where food comes from, except unless it comes from the grocery store. Some are worse. If it doesn't come from 7-Eleven or the convenience store in a package, they don't understand what ingredients are. I mean, the point is that we have gotten to a point of such comfort and divorced ourselves from nature so much that we don't know how to live if the grid or the convenient society of today's society is shut down. So that gentleman was talking about, the reality of, it's not always going to be peace times. And of course, in some areas of the world, it's not peace times right now. So we don't really think about that largely, especially here in America, very much. We don't think about that hardly. The citizens typically don't think about that much at all, about that things can change at the drop of a dime. We have people are not even prepared for, let's say, a blackout in a wintertime. Like people die in that type of situation. Older people die because they don't have any backup electricity. They don't have any extra medicine or something like that. They freeze like a lot of things happen because we haven't even thought about the possibility of things not going the way that they are right now. So again, that general was kind of speaking to these things. It's not just the military that needs to prepare, it's society that needs to prepare. Society largely is not doing that. So certainly among us, that really is not spoken about a lot. A lot of times it's about, faith. Hey, God is going to save us and all this type of stuff. What's taught in Christianity is even crazy. Like just before everything goes to heck, he's going to float us up in the air and we won't have to deal with it. We're going to get raptured away, which is not in the Bible. But we comfort ourselves with those types of thoughts, so that we don't have to think about the horrible things that can take place, the horrible things that have taken place in history, the horrible things that are taking place present day in different parts of the world, because we don't want to imagine ourselves in it. And who does? It's not a pleasant thought. But the point is that, the Most High gives us a lot of advice in his scriptures, regarding, when times are not so great. But we tend to want to think about, we're not such, things are not so great right now. He's going to get me out of this. Nah, things going to be a lot worse than they are right now for everybody. So again, we just want to go over some scriptures where, we're going to go over a historical story in the scriptures most of us are familiar with, but we're going to get a few more details. But we're going to start off with Romans 15:4. Romans 15:4. Let me get it up on the screen. Romans 15:4. Romans 15:4. You mind getting that for me, Judah Nick?
For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
Con. So again, these scriptures are a tool for us. They are for our learning. The Most High gave it to us for a reason, not just to let us know about him and let us know about our history, but there are so many things that are actually lessons that are inside of stories, that are inside of scriptures, that are inside of commandments, the laws and statutes and commandments, inside of Yahushai's journey. I mean, it's filled with so much instruction and so much information. But if we look at it as just a storybook, or just something that we're only looking at the New Testament and looking for miracles and reading about stories about miracles, then we're going to miss the breadth of the scriptures, because it's so much more than that. So most of y'all are familiar with Joseph. Joseph, one of Jacob's or Israel's sons. Joseph ended up being his brothers hated him. They were very jealous of him because he was Jacob's favorite, or Israel's favorite. So he ended up they ended up selling him into slavery. He ended up down in Egypt as a slave for many years. But some things happened, and he never stopped his spiritual journey. He never forgot any of those things. So he was very tight and very strict with how his father raised him up to that point where he was taken away. However, like I said, we're somewhat familiar with him being in Egypt and becoming second in command and stuff like that, all that type of stuff. But anyway, we're going to explore that a little bit just to try to glean some lessons from it. So we're going to go to Genesis 41:12. Let me get this thing on the better side of the screen here. Genesis 41:12. You ready, Judah Nick? And we're going to be skipping around a little bit. Excuse me.
And
all right, go ahead. Sorry.
And there was there with us a young man, an Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. We told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged.
All right, so basically what's going on right now, I didn't read that part, but Pharaoh just had a dream, and he's kind of bugged out about the dream. It's terrified him. He's like, what does this mean? And so he called his magicians. His magicians could not tell him, what his dream meant. So he was pretty upset about that. Very mad, very angry at them. So someone told him about this prisoner that interpreted dreams, because he's looking for someone. So they told him about Joseph, who was in jail at this point. So that's what we just read, them telling him about Joseph. You got something, Judah Nick?
I was going to just say about the additions. Really covered it.
Okay. All right. We saw this again, and I think this happened with what's his name? One of the Babylonian kings as well. But this is, again, we're just going to focus on Pharaoh and what happened in Egypt right now. Let's go to 14, and we're going to read quite a bit of this. All right. 41 to 14. Is this too big on the screen?
Oh, it's fine. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he saved himself and changed his raiment and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou can understand and interpret it. And Joseph answers Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Yahweh shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. I think I can't see
peace.
A bit of peace. And Pharaoh, verse 17. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. Behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow.
So right now, this is Pharaoh telling Joseph about his dream, and kine is basically like a deer. A kine is like a deer, So he's telling him about 7 kine, 7 deer that were fat-fleshed and very healthy that were feeding in the meadow. All right, 41 and 19.
And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored, and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning, so I awoke.
All right, so that scared him. He was like, hold up, what just happened? All right, we had 7 healthy deer kine, 7 healthy deer, just chilling, eating in the grass, and then all of a sudden some starving deer with bones looking sick and very sickly, looking like they're starving, the ribs showing and everything. Then they showed up and they ate up the healthy deer. So now we don't, and it was 7 of those kinds. So 7 of those sickly deer. But now all of a sudden we don't even see they ate the healthy kind. So all we see is the sickly kind. But even though they just ate the healthy kind, they're still sickly and starving looking. So he's like, what is this? I don't understand what's going on. So it spooked him. All right, let's get back to it. Where we at? 21? Yeah, so I woke. We're 22, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good.
Mm-hmm.
And behold, 7 ears withered thin and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them.
Mm-hmm.
And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me.
Mm-hmm. So this is the second dream, because he woke from the first one. So he fell back asleep, and this is the second dream. This time it's about some wheat. It's about plants, and we have that same situation. We have some thin ones that can't. We have some 7 good ones, and then all of a sudden some thin ones came up and devoured the 7 good ones. So it's a similar thing as what happened with the kine, the deer. All right. So the magicians, like we said, could not help him understand what was going on. All right.
And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do.
Mm-hmm.
The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one.
So he's saying that, okay, what you just saw, those 7 deer, and those 7 ears, or which could be ears of, I don't know, corn or wheat or whatever. Those actually represent good years, or 7 good ears, 7 years. The good kind, the good ears represent 7 years. Those 2 dreams are actually one dream. In other words, those 2 dreams, they have the same meaning, just 2 different representations. All right, 27.
And the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years. The 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing which I spoke unto the Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh.
All right, so he's saying this is actually a prophecy that the Most High showed to you, Pharaoh. All right, and here's what that means. 29.
Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. So
again, what that means is things are fine and normal right now, and you know what? It's actually about to get better. Like the economy, the Egyptian economy is about to be booming for 7 years. But after that, it's going to be 7 years of horrible famine. It's going to be so bad that you don't even remember that things were booming. It's going to be that bad. That's why it says all the plenty shall be forgotten. It's going to be so bad you don't even remember that things were going well. All right. 31.
And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of the famine following, for it shall be very grievous.
All right. So very, very extremely tough times coming. Mm-hmm.
And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because this thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass.
All right, so again, it's about to go down, and he doubled it just to give you emphasis that for sure this is about to happen. All right, 33.
Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt.
So now what Joseph is doing is saying, okay, that was the prophecy. Well, this is what your dream meant. So now I'm going to give you a little bit of a solution. All right, this is what you need to do. All right, look out a man discreet and wise. So in other words, find a man that's discreet and wise and set him over the land of Egypt. All right, 41:34.
Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt, the 7th plenteous years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, and that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants.
All right, cool. So, excuse me. So so most of us are familiar with that that story, and we know, there are things that happen after that. For instance, we know that who is Joseph's father? Who is Joseph's real father? He's one of the children of.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jacob. I think.
Yeah, he's one of the children of Israel. He's one of the patriarchs, children of Israel. He's one of the children of Jacob, absolutely. And why did do y'all know? Are you familiar with the story? Like, why did Jacob end up coming to the land of Egypt? Do we know? Oh, it's all good. It's all good, man. We may get to that during this thing. Well, I'll just say it real quick. He came because of well, first of all, does anybody online have the answer? Anybody on?
No.
Nobody knows. We'll get to, we probably actually won't get to that, but Jacob ended up coming to the land because all the way where he was, there was famine as well, and he had heard that in Egypt, there was some food there, so he was like, "Hey, let's go get some grub in Egypt." So anyway, that's how that reunion happened. But we see that the Most High sent the message to Pharaoh, and that message was sent to Pharaoh really so he can get it to Joseph for several different reasons. The Most High, his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So he's orchestrating things the way that he orchestrates things. But what we're gonna do, because like I said many times in Genesis, we have a couple of lines that are like a couple of verses, but those couple of verses might span several years, or they might not have a whole lot of details in them. But the book of Jasher, which is a recognized book that was originally in the Bible, is recognized. It's basically like a more detailed Genesis. So it's a much more detailed Genesis. So you have the accounts of many of the things that happen that we see in Genesis that we're familiar with, but this gives us even more details. So we're actually going to go to the book of Jasher, chapter 48, and we're going to start from there. We're just going to get some more details about what was going on with this whole thing. So we read a little bit of Genesis. Now we're going to go to Jasher. All right, so we're going to do Jasher. This is chapter 48. So we all know book of Jasher, chapter 48. We're going to start at 56. 56.
The king dreamed one dream, and the dream was therefore repeated unto Pharaoh, because the thing is established by God, and God will surely bring it to pass.
All right.
Therefore, I will give thee counsel and deliver thy soul and the souls of the inhabitants of the land from the evil of the famine, that thou seek throughout thy kingdom for a very discreet and wise, who knoweth all the affairs of the government, and appoint him to be superintended over the land of Egypt.
So we just read this, right? We just read. This is what we just read in Genesis, that to look out a man, so we find ourselves in that same place. And again, that's why we're picking up here in Jasher. So we see that they do connect, and he's about to give them answers on how to deliver thy soul and the souls of the inhabitants of the land. So this is so Joseph is a man with a plan. So he's about to give that plan to the Pharaoh, the king. All right, let's go to 58.
And let the man whom thou placest over Egypt appoint officers under him, that they gather in all the food of Egypt good years that are coming, and let them lay up corn and deposit it in thy appointed stores. And let them keep that food for the 7 years of famine, that it may be found for thee, the people and thy whole land, that thy land be not cut off by the famine.
So we have these 7 good years. We have 7 good years, and what is he saying, or saying that the plan should be for those 7 good years? To save up.
Yeah, I can't.
My bad. I should have asked that question
It's all good.
instead of asking weird questions that nobody can figure out. But yeah, so he's saying, store these things up, lay up the corn, and deposit them in the appointed stores, the appointed storehouses, warehouses, we'll just say, so we have like a common terminology that we can understand. All right. And let them keep that food for 7 years, for the 7 years of famine. So the plan is to get that food so that because there's about to be a famine. We know that people are going to need something to eat, during this time. We need to get some food that can withstand, that we can hold for long-term storage. Food for long-term storage that will still be good at least 7 years from now, but it's going to be 7 more years. So if this is the first year of the 7 years of plenty, we need food that might be able to last for at least 14 years, because after the 7 good years of plenty, there are going to be 7 years of famine. So we need some food that's going to, we need a long plan of survival here. A long plan of survival. All right. I don't know where we left off. 60. Okay. Thank you, brother.
Let all the inhabitants of that land be also ordered that they gather in every man that produce of his field of all sorts of food during the 7 good years, and that they place it in their stores, that it may be found for them in the days of the famine, and that they may live upon it.
All right. So first we had orders for the government. Well, we had a plan for the government. Hey, government, this is what you should do, because he's appointing a man over the land. This is what he said. This is what Joseph is suggesting that Pharaoh do. Appoint a man over the land. Now he's saying, in addition to that, let all of the inhabitants, let all the citizens, also be ordered that they gather in stuff that they produce of all sorts of food during the 7 good years. So in other words, we're not telling the citizens to depend on the government. Now, we, the government, we're creating a plan, but that plan is a just in case. The first plan is for the people to take care of themselves. So all of those people, the inhabitants of the land, let them gather during that 7 years, during the 7 good years, and that they place it in their stores, in their storehouses, that it may be found for them in the days of famine, that they may live upon it. So he's saying what the people should do. He's telling what the people should do. So remember, this is Joseph. Joseph is the one that can interpret these dreams. Who helps him? Who gives him the understanding on how to interpret the dreams? Who do you think is giving him this plan? Because this is all coming like this. Who do you think is giving him this plan? And what is Yahweh telling him to make sure that the people do? Prepare. He's saying, okay, the government and the people. The government has a plan. The people need to have a plan as well. We see that? All right. Let's keep it moving. Let's go to 61.
This is the proper interpretation of thy dream, and this is the counsel given to save thy soul and the souls of all thy subjects.
This is the proper counsel to save thy soul and the souls of all thy subjects. And again, what we have to understand, and what we want to understand, is that again, we're very accustomed to thought about miracles. Well, let's put it like this. What is a miracle? You know what? What let's see if we can look that up. What in the world is a miracle, man? Miracle definition. Let's see what a miracle is. Ready for this miracle, Judah Nick?
No.
A miracle, a surprising and welcome event that is not explicable or explainable by natural or scientific laws, and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. A highly improbable or extraordinary event, development, or accomplishment that brings very welcome consequences. an amazing product or achievement or an outstanding example of something. All right. So most of us would like a miracle in our lives, right? But what does it what does it say about a miracle? Again, it's highly improbable and it's an extraordinary event. So this is not something that just happens all the time. So we look through, so we know that the Israelites are the Most High's people. The Israelites have been in trouble for thousands of years. And certainly there have been miracles that are done throughout those thousands of years. There have also been tons of tragedy. In other words, there's not always a miracle given that where our soul, where we're going to be saved. You know, in other words, we know he can do it. We know he has promises, but we don't dictate when he's going to do those things. We don't dictate what he's going to do. So just like he gave Joseph this message to prepare, we live in a natural world. He is supernatural. He can do supernatural things, but he gave us this natural world to live in, and natural laws that we have to abide by. You know, the supernatural is something that might happen. That's something that might happen that we can't control and we can't dictate. We want it to happen in our favor, but we also have, just like Joseph was given, the Pharaoh was given a dream, and Joseph interpreted that. We've been given prophecies, and these prophecies will come to pass. That dream was a warning. The prophecies are warnings. And he gave Joseph a plan on how to handle this dream. The word gives us things to learn so that we know how to handle these prophetic times that are coming, you know. And again, certainly, you know, we definitely expect that there will be some miracles that will come at some point. But he also says that there's going to be some very difficult times, Jacob's trouble. But he will be saved out of it. What is it? Something to the end. What is it?
He that endureth to the end shall be saved, I think.
Thank you. Endure to the end. No one has to tell you to endure a good party. You know what I'm saying? If you're having a good time, why? That's fun. That's not something you feel like you have to endure. You have to endure something that's very, very difficult. So endure to the end. So again, there will be difficult times. There have been difficult times in the past. We are deluded to think that there won't be difficult times in the future, especially when we're told that there will be difficult times in the future. So we must prepare for that. All right, let me see where we are here. Okay, and then we'll do 62. Then we're going to jump around a little bit. 62.
The king answered and said unto Joseph, Who saith and who knoweth that thy words are correct? Said unto the king, This shall be a sign for thee respecting all my words, that they are true and that my advice is good for thee.
So basically, we won't really get into that, but basically what he said is that your wife is about to have a baby. You already have one son, but your wife is about to have a baby, but your 2-year-old baby is going to die once you have, you know, a little bit after you have this baby. Because that's going to happen, that's going to let you know that what I just told you is true. So he gave him a prophecy, and lo and behold, that's what happened. You know, Pharaoh's son died. So you know, that came to pass. So he knew that he remembered that this whole dream and dream interpretation, and he was like, okay, that was true. Now let's get some details about how Joseph was rolling, because most of us don't really know about Joseph. But we're gonna see a couple things that happen. So of course he told him to appoint somebody in the land to oversee all of this stuff. So let's go to 9. Let's go to this is chapter 49. Jasher, book of Jasher, chapter 49. We're gonna go to 9 because we're gonna see a miracle. We're gonna see some intervention here from the Most High, because all of this is according to His plan. So let's go to 9.
And all the officers answered the king and said, But surely it is written in the laws of Egypt, and it should not be violated, that no man shall reign over Egypt, nor be the second to the king, but one who has knowledge in all the languages of the sons of men.
Mm-hmm. So he's because they're like, hold up, man. We know this Hebrew slave guy. He told you this thing is right, but he can't be the right guy because all he knows is Hebrew. He doesn't even. Oh, my bad. I think I'm saying this before we get there. Let's go to 10.
Therefore, our Lord and King, behold, this Hebrew man can only speak the Hebrew language. How then can he be over us, the second under the government, man who not even know our language?
Mm-hmm.
Now we pray thee, send for him, and let him come before thee, and prove in all things, and do as thou see fit.
So I know you like this guy, but he doesn't even speak our language. But you know what? We want to advise you. Let's test him out and see if he's fit for the job. All right. And 12.
The king said, it will be done tomorrow, and the thing that you have spoken is good. All the officers on that day before the king.
All right. 13.
And on the night the Lord sent one of his ministering angels, came over and Joseph. And the angel of the Lord stood over Joseph, and behold, Joseph was laying in bed at night, and his master's house, dungeon, for his master had put him back into the dungeon of life.
So we know that. So I forgot what Potiphar, I believe, is the guy that who Joseph was basically a slave to, and Joseph was a good-looking dude. The ladies of today, and apparently any day during time, would have loved Joseph. But this book says that he was a good-looking dude. He was so good-looking that he was a temptation to his master's wife, and she kept on trying to rape the dude. I guess I'm not supposed to say that word. She molested him and kept on trying to get him to go in unto her. Let's just put it that way. He kept on resisting to the point one time she ripped his clothes off and he ran out. And then she still had his clothes and she blamed him for trying to do something to her. Her husband got mad at the lie she just told and threw him in jail. So this is where this angel finds him right now in the dungeon. This is where that ministering angel appears to him. All right. So that's why it says on account of his wife, on account of his master's wife. All right. 14.
And the angel roused him from his sleep, and Joseph rose up and stood upon his legs, and behold, the angel of the Lord was standing opposite to him. The angel of the Lord spoke with Joseph, and he taught him all the languages of man in that night. Wow.
Y'all want a miracle, right?
Wow.
Y'all wanted a miracle, right?
And he called his name Joseph.
Jehoshaphat. Yeah. So so there's a miracle. The angel of the Most High came and taught him all the languages of man in that night. All right, because remember that was the objection of the officers that were advising the king, the Pharaoh, right? So the angel was like, let me take care. Well, Yah was like, let me take care of that right quick. All right, let's go to 15.
Angel of the Lord went from him, and Joseph returned and lay upon his bed. And Joseph was astonished at the vision.
Keep on going.
And it came to pass in the morning that the king sent his officers, for all his officers and servants. They all came and sat before the king. The king ordered those to four. The king's servant went out and brought Joseph before Pharaoh. And the king came forth and ascended. And Joseph spoke unto the king in all languages, and Joseph went up to him and spoke unto the king until he arrived before the king in the 70th step, and he sat for the king.
All right. And Joseph spoke unto the king in all languages. This is an overnight sensation. All right. All right. So miracles happen, but is that something that Joseph planned for? Did he know that the Most High was gonna do that?
No.
I had no idea. So we can't plan for a miracle. We can hope for, we can't plan for it. All right. 18.
And the king greatly rejoiced on it. Greatly with the king, they heard all the words of Joseph.
All right. 19.
And the thing seemed good in the sight of the king and the officers, appoint Joseph to be second to the king over the land. The king spoke to Joseph, saying, Thou didst give me.
We don't have to read that part. My fault. I should have stopped you. But that's when Joseph got appointed to the basically the vice president. We'll just say for terms we may be familiar with today. That's how he got in that position. Now we're gonna see how he was rolling in there, because again, we don't really have a great picture. We know that happened. We know he was second in charge over all of Egypt. But now we're going to get a visual of what that looked like, what that office looked like. And I'll give you a little bit of a rest, Judah, Nick. I'll read some of this starting at 24. And the king commanded his servants, and they made him ride in the second chariot belonging to the king, that went opposite to the king's chariot, and he caused him to ride upon a great and strong horse from the king's horses, and to be conducted through the streets, that's like led through the streets of the land of Egypt. And the king commanded that all those that played upon timbrels and harps and other musical instruments should go forth with Joseph, 1,000 timbrels, 1,000 mekaloths, whatever those instruments are, 1,000 nebelim went after him. Not sure what those things are, but it sounds like they're playing instruments. 26, and 5,000 men with drawn swords glittering in their hands, and they went marching and played before Joseph. So this is a big parade announcing Joseph. And 20,000 of the great men of the king, girt with girdles of skin covered with gold, marched at the right hand of Joseph, and 20,000 at his left. And all the women and damsels went upon the roofs or stood in the streets playing and rejoicing at Joseph, and gazed at the appearance of Joseph and at his beauty. They were like, he fine. Ain't that what the ladies say? Is that what the ladies say, Judah, Nick? All right. 26. And the king's people went before him and behind him, perfuming the road with frankincense and with cassia, and with all sorts of fine perfume and scattered mirth. Myrrh. I'm not sure what that is. And aloes along the road. And 20 men proclaimed these words before him throughout the land in a loud voice. Do you see this man who the king has chosen to be his second? All the affairs of government shall be regulated by him. And he that transgress his orders, or that does not bow before him to the ground, shall die. For he rebels against the king and his second. And when the heralds had ceased proclaiming, all the people of Egypt bowed down to the ground before Joseph and said, may the king live, also may his second live. And all the inhabitants of Egypt bowed down along the road. And when the heralds approached them, they bowed down. And they rejoiced with all sorts of timbrels, mekol, nabal, before Joseph. And Joseph upon his horse lifted up his eyes to heaven and called out and said, he raiseth the poor man from the dust. He lifteth up the needy from the dunghill. O Lord of hosts, happy is the man who trusteth in thee. So that's something that we definitely need to remember, that we need to trust. We need to absolutely trust in the Most High. And again, we do those things. We must have faith. We must trust. However, we have to remember that there are still natural things that we have to do, and he helps us as we do those things. But we cannot force him to do a miracle. Otherwise, we would probably treat that wrong too, like a genie in a bottle or something like that, which is again, that's all wrong. I'm going to skip down to 32. And Joseph returned and came on that day before Pharaoh, and the king gave Joseph a possession in the land of Egypt. He gave him some land, a possession of fields and vineyards. And the king gave unto Joseph 3,000 talents of silver and 1,000 talents of gold and onyx stones and bdellium and many gifts. And on the next day, the king commanded all the people of Egypt to bring unto Joseph offerings and gifts, and that he that violated the command of the king should die. So you got to get this dude some presents or you're going to get killed. And they made a high place in the street of the city, and they spread out garments there. And whosoever brought anything to Joseph, put it into that high place, put it into the high place. Let's skip down to 39. And the king gave Joseph 100 servants to attend him in his house. And Joseph also sent and purchased many servants, and they remained in the house of Joseph. So again, he really is. He's a second in command to the king. So again, he's in the dungeon no more. So we just want to get a visual of how he was living, what was going on. So at 40, Joseph then built for himself a very magnificent house, like unto the houses of kings, before the court of the king's palaces. And he made in the house a large temple, very elegant in appearance and convenient for his residence. 3 years was Joseph in erecting his house. So that joint he was living large. And Joseph made unto himself a very elegant throne of abundance of gold and silver, and he covered it with onyx stones and bdellium. And he made upon it the likeness of the whole land of Egypt, and the likeness of the river of Egypt that watereth the whole land of Egypt. And Joseph sat securely upon his throne in his house, and the Lord increased Joseph's wisdom. And all the inhabitants of Egypt and Pharaoh's servants and his princes loved Joseph exceedingly, for this thing was from the Lord to Joseph. And Joseph had an army that made war, going out in hosts in troops to the number of 40,600 men, capable of bearing arms to assist the king and Joseph against the enemy, besides the king's officers and his servants and inhabitants of Egypt without number. And Joseph gave unto his mighty men and to all his hosts shields and javelins and caps and coats of mail, that's armor basically, and stones for slinging. So again, we're just getting an image and understanding of how he was living, because again, we think about him as being the second in command and maybe riding around on a horse, but we don't really see how that might have looked, but we understand that he was really doing it up like a king. He was really doing it up like a king. So now we're going to go to the next chapter, chapter 50, and we're going to take a look at what was actually going on in that famine. And there are definitely some things we can kind of, like I said, glean from this. And we're talking about it like this because we can liken this to some of the things that may go on wherever we are in the world in the future. The Bible says these things are going to happen. The Bible says these things are going to happen, and what we're doing is we're seeing that some of these signs are taking place. We can see the signs of these things beginning to take place in parts of the world. So let's see how they were rolling with it, with this account of Joseph. All right, let's go to chapter 50 and verse 7.
Okay. And that I got it. And at the revolution of the year, in the second year of Joseph's reigning over Egypt, the Lord gave plenty throughout the land for 7 years, as Joseph had spoken. For the Lord blessed all the produce of the earth in those days for 7 years, and they ate and were greatly satisfied.
So a lot of times when things are going well, we don't think about the Most High no more. We don't consider anything else because it just feels like these good times are going to last forever. So we have to be very careful with that. All right, and understand what the prophecies say. Despite what we see in front of our eyes right now, we have to believe what the prophecies say. We have to prepare based on the prophecies. Okay, and just like they're preparing based on the dream, and the dream was a prophecy. All right, 8.
And Joseph at that time had officers under him, and they collected all the foods of the good years and heaped corn year by year, and they placed it in the treasuries of Joseph.
So those are like the storehouses, the warehouses. Mm-hmm.
And at any time when they gathered the food, Joseph commanded that they should bring the corn in the ears, and also bring with it some of the soil of the field, that it should not spoil.
So we're wondering back then, how did they keep all of that food alive from spoiling? They didn't have no refrigerators and stuff like that. They did have ancient storing techniques like underground and stuff like that. They do have and some people still use those things today. You can even see some of that stuff on YouTube. But this is just showing how they were keeping the soil with it, so they were making sure that these plants did not die, so that the food didn't spoil. So they had a plan. Again, the Most High gave them wisdom. All right. So again, we need to listen to these things, because this is how they were working through the times of plenty. All right. Even though things are a little challenging right now, we're not in a famine situation. so we can consider this a time of plenty. What should we be doing? Okay, let's think about that. What should we be doing? All right, let's go back to our ancestor Joseph. All right, 10.
And Joseph did according.
Sorry about this.
And Joseph did according to this year by year, and he heaped up corn like the same sand of the sea for abundance. So he did a lot. For his stores were immense and could not be numbered for abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And also, all the inhabitants of Egypt gathered all sorts of food in their stores in great abundance during the 7 good years, but they did not do unto it as Joseph did.
So he told them exactly what to do. You know, they did their version of what they were told to do. You know, and we do that all the time. The Most High says, dude, this is what you should do. You should celebrate Shabbat this way. Well, I'm gonna do it a little different, but I'm still gonna call it Shabbat. But I'm gonna do it my way. You know, does the Most High feel honored? Does Yahweh Shah feel honored when you keep the Shabbat in some way that you told him to? Like, I'm gonna read the Bible while I'm eating a pork chop sandwich, but I'm reading the Bible. You know, I'm teaching my kids all about the Bible while we eat some ham hocks or whatever some pork food is, you know, or what have you. So we have to do according to what the instructions are, or things are not going to, or you're not going to get the result that the Most High told us that we will get if we follow His instruction. We have to follow it to a T. Isn't that what the enemy does? He might tell you part of the word, but then he'll change it up. Okay, well, it's not the enemy doing it, it's us doing it. I'm going to listen to part of the word, but then I'm going to change it up and do what I want to do, you know, later on. And then we're wondering why we're lost and why things are not going right. But yeah, we still want to call ourselves believers, and we're following the way and stuff like that. So again, we're going to see how this worked out for the Egyptians, because it says they did not do unto as Joseph. They did not do what Joseph did. And again, what he did was he said, bring some of the soil from the field so that the food didn't spoil. All right, that's a key part to it, you know, because again, this stuff has to hold for some time. All right, and if they're using soil and getting food out of the field, what does that mean that they have? That's a terrible question.
What?
That's a terrible question. You would literally have to be in my head to understand what I'm trying to get to. All right. So if you're growing food, what do you grow food in or on?
In a pot?
Huh?
In a pot?
I don't even know what you said. You said a pot?
A pot, like to hold the plant in the.
Cool. A pot in your garden or on your farm. It's no way. Like I said, terrible question. I was trying to get somebody to say, you have a farm or a garden.
Yeah,
How are you going to say that? If he has some food, what does that mean he has? Stupid question. But in other words, you know, agriculture, they had their food comes from the earth, either from, you know, people are eating animals or it comes from plants, you know, so you have to have knowledge of, you know, farming or knowledge of gardening in order to be able to produce food. Otherwise, you're going to be short, you know, and that still holds true today. If they shut these stores down, where's your food coming from? All right. Oops, let me share the screen again. And I don't remember where we were. You think I need some help?
12.
Right. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, 12.
Okay.
And all the food which Joseph and the Egyptians had gathered during the 7 years of plenty was secured for the land in stores for 7 years of famine, for the support of the whole land.
So Joseph and the Egyptians had gathered food. So Joseph and the people of Egypt had gathered food. And that was the original plan, that not just the government, but the people will provide for themselves. That was what they're supposed to store stuff in their storehouses, stuff that they produce themselves. All right. And again, the Most High gave him this plan. All right, let's go ahead. Come on, read.
And the inhabitants of Egypt filled each man his store and his concealed place with corn to be for support during the famine.
Yep. So people they did store things, that they stored food. They just didn't store it properly, but they stored food. So they were planning, and they were planning on preparing themselves for this famine. They were preparing for it. All right, 14.
And Joseph placed all the food that he gathered in all the cities of Egypt, and he closed all the stores and placed sentinels over them. So lookouts, right? Lookouts.
Yeah, lookouts and guards. Guards. So nobody's coming and stealing the food. Mm-hmm.
And Joseph's wife, Osnath, the daughter of Potiphar, bare him 2 sons, and Manasseh and Ephraim. And
Ephraim. So we Ephraim. I'm just bringing that up because the 2 houses of Israel, the nation of Israel was split up into those 2 houses. One was the house of the kingdom of Judah, and the other one was the kingdom of Israel. The kingdom of Israel is also called Ephraim because Ephraim was the head tribe of those lost 10 tribes. Instead of saying like Judah or Naphtali, instead of saying the house of Joseph or the tribe of Joseph, they call it the tribe of Ephraim. You know, so instead of saying Joseph, Ephraim, and sometimes Manasseh is used as well instead of Dan, but Ephraim. So this is where we see the word Ephraim. But this is the Ephraim is Joseph's son. He had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. All right.
And Joseph was 34 years old when he begat them.
All right.
And the lads grew up, and they went in his way and his instructions. They did not deviate from the way which their father taught them, either to the right or to the left.
And that's the way we're supposed to be running our houses. Men, that's the way we're supposed to be running our houses. Because we know the instruction that he taught them was the instructions from the Most High. Because you can see in other writings that he did not. He was very, very, very strict with maintaining the law, statutes, and commandments, the orders from the Most High. He was very strict in that because his father taught him. And remember, his father is Israel, Jacob, Israel. You know, so Joseph is an extension of that covenant. So he's very, very serious and very focused on what his father taught him. And this is how we're supposed to continue to replicate the Most High's order by giving that to our sons and daughters as well. And then they have families and do the exact same thing that Joseph did with his. All right. 17.
And the Lord was with the lads, for the 2 sons, and they grew up and had understanding and skill in all wisdom and in all the affairs of government, and all the king's officers and his great men of the inhabitants of Egypt exalted the lads, and they were brought up amongst the king's children.
Mm-hmm. They were young bosses.
The 7 years of plenty that were throughout the land were at an end. The 7 years of famine came after them as Joseph had spoken, and the famine was throughout the land.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people of Egypt saw that the famine had commenced in the land of Egypt, and all the people of Egypt opened their stores of corn, for the famine prevailed over them.
So again, it's just like we have all of these disaster movies coming up. Some would say that it's for a reason, because certain elite have to kind of show what they're going to be doing in the future. We know that these things are prophesied in the Bible. It talks about basically a loaf of bread costing a day's wage. It talks about you not being able to buy and sell unless you have a particular mark that says you can buy and sell. It talks about these. We're going to see some of that too. So again, we really have to pay attention to how this is going to be, because all right, the Most High gave Joseph this dream and this plan, and of course gave him the wisdom to orchestrate this. But we're going to see that this is also how. Remember, Joseph is working on behalf of the Egyptian government right now, right? So we're also going to see how the government is how they're kind of working through the famine and dealing with the people, because we are the people. So we need to understand these things because the scriptures are for our learning. So we're going to see some of the things that are orchestrated in here. We saw a couple years ago orchestrated, and in the Bible it says it's going to be orchestrated even more. At that prophesied time. So we're going to see some of these things happen. So again, we don't want to just look at this as a story. This is history, and it's also not just history, so we just know that what happened, but it's for us to it's for us to look at how things were done, how decisions were made, what the results were, what the how it affected the people, how it affected the children, what could have been done different, what these lessons were, and then how do we orchestrate these things in our lives now? Okay, it's not just for us to commit to memory. All right, let me get back to sharing this thing. We want to make sure we look at it that way. All right, so and all the people of Egypt saw that the famine had commenced. So these bad times, the SHTF as they call it, the ish hit the fan. That's what they call it these days. They see that the ish has hit the fan, and the famine had commenced in the land of Egypt. And all of the people of Egypt opened their stores of corn for their famine, for the famine prevailed over them. So all of the food that they gathered when they were preparing for tough times, have we gathered things to prepare for tough times? That's what we need to ask ourselves. All right, let's go to 20.
And they found all the food that was in their stores full of vermin and not fit to eat. And the famine prevailed throughout the land, and all the inhabitants of Egypt came and cried before Pharaoh, for the famine was heavy upon them.
Why was it why was all of the food full of vermin and not fit to eat?
Because they didn't put the scabbard with the soil.
Yeah, so it was rotten, and that's what vermin like, right? It wasn't alive. They didn't keep that food properly. Some of them apparently grew it, but they didn't prepare properly to the instructions of Joseph in order to maintain that food. So even though they did follow the instructions or did think about it, it's almost like blindly doing something as opposed to thinking about what you're doing. Okay, all right. He's told me I gotta have some water, so I'm gonna give me a pack of water. 48 bottles, that should do me just fine in a famine. I'm gonna give me 48 bottles of water, $4.99, and I'm good. Famine, here I come. I did it. That's what they told me to do, but you're not thinking about it. All you need is 48 bottles of water. What about washing your body? What about washing your clothes? What about preparing food? How long is 48 bottles of water going to last? So you can't just do stuff just to say you did it. You have to prepare with a plan in mind for that period of time that things might be going awry in this situation of famine. Does that make sense? All right. So they did not prepare properly. So unfortunately, vermin and insects and animals and mice probably got in there and destroyed the food. It wasn't good, and it was already destroyed. It wasn't good anymore. And the famine prevailed throughout the land, and all the inhabitants of Egypt cried before Pharaoh, for the famine was heavy upon them. So we have, again, people called preppers now. We have there's like prepper shows on cable or these different networks and stuff like that. We have these movies. We just have this what was it, something Left Behind or whatever, I don't know what the movie was, that recently came out, that Obama produced or had something to do with Mahershala Ali in it. That was a popular movie, and again, it's talking about things went bad, and there was one guy in there that had prepared some things, but what we saw is that the husband, he had a terrible line in there talking about he's worthless. He's not good for anything. He doesn't know what to do. It's just a terrible line for a man to say. But basically he would say he had no value because he did not know anything to do in that type of survival situation. And men, what we have to understand is that, people make fun of, I know I've had friends that made fun of, hey, you guys, y'all should prepare for this. Hey, why don't you guys just pick some of this up when you go to the store, just a little bit here, a little bit there, whatever the case is. And they talk about me, and they make jokes about me and stuff like that. It's funny, but yet they don't know how to prepare. They don't know how to start a fire. They don't know how to do these different things that will help them if they get into that situation. And this is definitely a special message to men, because when it's all said and done, we can say whatever we want to say right now, but everyone is going to be looking at the men. Men, your families, your children, and your wives are going to be looking at you. They're going to be looking at us if something goes wrong. They're going to be looking at us for answers. They're going to be looking at us for protection, for a plan, for provisions. Despite there being a tough time, they're still expecting us as men to come through. So we need to women definitely prepare as well, because it's good for everybody to gain skills and to prepare yourselves. Men especially, because we are the ones that are the leaders. They're not going to be crying about a patriarchy at that time. They're going to be like, where is the patriarchy? Please. Patriarchy, please help me. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a completely different thing if we have a S-H-I-T with S-H. I spelled the word. It's just the fan type of situation. You know what I mean? So again, this is a message, because we might have a couple people over here that do it, but the general public is not. The general public, when we have a bad snowstorm or a hurricane in some areas, or we have some kind of calamity that happens, what happens? The stores are ravished right away. You know, people panic. You know, things happen very, very quickly, and people will overbuy, and they will worry and everything else. So you can avoid those things if you do a little preparing here and there. Stock up on some necessities that will last you a while here and there. You don't have to blow out the bank account. If you have it, certainly prepare, you know, and again, learn some skills and all this other good stuff. But again, let's keep on going. All right, so again, the famine prevailed throughout the land, and all the inhabitants of Egypt came and cried before Pharaoh. They're going to be crying to the government, you know, hey, help me, for the famine was heavy upon them. And that's what happens when things are tough. We can't depend on the government to help us out. Israelites, y'all should know that, first of all. You know, but we cannot depend on, we only have one help and one savior that's truly in our corner. Okay, so it's best to learn from the information that he left us. So that things can go the way that he wants it to go, and the way that we want it to go. No, we're at 21. All right, 21.
And they said unto Pharaoh, give food unto thy servants, and wherefore shall we die through hunger before even we and our little ones?
So please help me, Pharaoh. Come on, give it to me. Give food to us. It's not going to be a please for long. They're going to get violent with it. Why should we die for? Look, why should we die? You know, even though they didn't listen, they didn't prepare correctly. You know, the blame is going to go somewhere else. And it's going to be the same thing with men, your families. How come you don't have this for us? The babies are hungry, blah, blah, blah. Men, we got to get on it. Okay. All right.
Pharaoh answered them, saying, and wherefore do you cry unto me? Did not Joseph command that the corn should be laid up during the 7 years of plenty, or the years of famine? Wherefore did you not hearken to his voice?
Do we remember that video that we looked at before we started this teaching tonight? Didn't the guy say, look, society needs to understand it. It may not always be peace times. They have to do this. Get a flashlight, get some batteries, get some water. That's Joseph. You know, these are, why you, the government's like, why are you saying this to me? Didn't we tell you what to do? Didn't we send you this? I forgot some of these organizations, they'll have, like these certain items you're supposed to get in your house and stuff like that. So they will not have any guilt about your family suffering. It's you. We have to be responsible. No one else is going to care when it comes down to it. People will care for themselves, and adults, we should know that by now, because we know what goes on with most people that care about themselves. Right? Yeah. What were you doing when everything was plentiful? All right. So let's go to 23.
The people of Egypt answered the king, saying, as our soul liveth, our lord thy servant have done all that Joseph ordered. But thy servant also gathered in all the produce of their fields during the 7 years of plenty, and laid it in the stores unto this day.
We did what you said do. We did do that. Like none of it's going to matter. We did, but we did. All right.
And when the famine prevailed over thy servants, we opened our stores, and behold, all our produce was filled with vermin and was not fit for food. And when the king heard all that had befallen the inhabitants of Egypt, the king was greatly afraid on account of the famine, and he was much terrified. And the king answered the people of Egypt, saying, since all this has happened unto you, go unto Joseph, do whatever he shall say unto you, and transgress not his commandments.
So the Pharaoh's like, look, Joseph is the answer guy. Look, he's in control. Go to that cat. Just do what he says.
Well, even the king, that Pharaoh is useless. That's the truth. Pharaoh is useless.
Like sleeping. Never mind. I shouldn't say certain politicians' names. Absolutely. Some people are asleep. But that's our entire government. To be honest with you, again, we have to depend on ourselves because no one's looking out for us but our Father and our King. All right, but that's right.
And all the people of Egypt went forth and came unto Joseph and said unto him, give unto us food, and wherefore shall we die before thee through hunger? For we gathered in our produce during 7 years as thou didst command, and we put in the store, and thus has it befallen us. And when Joseph heard all the words of the people and what had befallen them, Joseph opened all his stores of the produce, and he sold it unto the people of Egypt. And
all right, you're supposed to fend for yourself. But if we don't, do we expect food is just going to drop out the sky? Do we expect that the government is just going to say, here, that they're just going to give it to us? We hear about all of these social programs and stuff like that, and despite all the plenty in this world, there's never enough because we're dependent on them to hand it to us. And if we knew how much food was thrown away every day, it's an absolute shame. There should be no one that's hungry, even given the land that is in front of us. Instead of having a lawn, you can put some plants that produce food on there. There should be nobody hungry. There should be nobody hungry. But we have to depend on ourselves. We cannot depend on the government. But if they do, the government. This is what happens when times are bad for the general public. The rich get richer. Why? Because they're gonna sell you they're gonna sell you what you need, and they're gonna get some cake off of it. He sold it unto them. So this is what the government is going to do. This is what these companies are going to do. When we had that Corona C-19, when we had that whole thing, did prices stay low or did they go up?
They went back up.
They went up. Why? Because they're selling stuff to you. Why? Because you need it. You need me, dog. You know what I'm saying? I got what you need.
I remember in the UK they had some sanitizer which used to be maybe £3. They I seen on the internet they were selling for 10 times the price or something. So just imagine, bro, damn hand sanitizer, bro, being sold for 10x. Come on, man. That's whoever's buying that, they're laughing. They're literally laughing while you're starving or something bad's happening. They're laughing, bro.
All the way to the bank. The food prices shot up. I mean, let alone if you really look at what was going on before all that stuff happened. We had a whole lot of food production plant fires and things, just food factories being destroyed. We have farms being destroyed. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background to so-called create a situation. So like I said, no one's on our side. You have to do your research and figure things out on yourself for you and for your family. Hopefully, I mean, it's certainly best if we can come together as a community, certainly a community of Israelites as well, but until we do that, even if you're in a community, you're going to want to be good for something. You're going to want to be able to contribute. So you still need to be doing some training or some learning, getting some skills together, so you can contribute to a meaningful society if we get into that type of situation. And if maybe I have this over here and you need this and you have something that I need, so you can do some bartering. So we have to really think about these things, because the companies are going to be selling it to you at an exorbitant price. And like I said, that's already in the Bible, that bread is going to be for a day's wage. Like this, that's hyperinflation. That's mega inflation. That's coming. And we saw just a slight taste. And even with that, they were rationing food. Okay, you can only get this much of this item. You can only get 4 cans of food or whatever the case is. So do it in times of plenty when you don't have those restrictions on you, and when you have the means to do it. Like I said, do a little bit at a time, because if we don't want to be caught in this situation, like these Egyptians went to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh was like, man, what you coming to me for? Go see that dude over there. Because we will get that same type of treatment now. Reparations for what? You know what I'm saying? All kinds of stuff. So that's the way things are going to go. And when Joseph heard all of the words of the people of Egypt and what had befallen them, Joseph opened all his stores of the produce and he sold it unto the people of Egypt. So they had to have some dough in order to get that. So they still had to have something in order to get what they needed. They had to have something. And the famine prevailed throughout the land, and the famine was in all countries. But in the land of Egypt, there was produce for sale. For sale.
AKA Joseph stuff.
That's right. Joseph stuff. Why? Because he prepared. No one else prepared. And why did he prepare? Because the Most High sent a prophecy through someone else, but it went to Joseph, and he put Joseph in a position. He gave Joseph a plan before he put Joseph in position. He gave him a plan, and he gave that plan to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh, like Judah Dick said, he was like, look, I need to find somebody else that can handle this. Let me search the whole land. Let me look for a man, But the prophecy and the plan came from the Most High, and again, we know Joseph is an Israelite. He's orchestrating a government, and we're seeing how a government will do with their citizens. They'll give you a warning. Hey, do such and such. They're not going to tell you every single plan. They're not going to tell you that he did these things because he was expecting that at a certain point. Why did he have soldiers, sentinels in front of the storehouses? Because he knew that people were going to be like, hey. So he thought about what was going to happen. Are we thinking about what's going to happen? Are we thinking about what the government is going to do? Are we thinking about what these stores are going to do? Are they expressing? What happened to the people of Hawaii not too long ago? What happened to all of their children? Is anybody caring about what's happening with these people and the theft that's going on? Do not think that it can't happen to you. Don't think that it can't happen in these Western countries. Don't think it can't happen in the U.S. or anywhere else. It can happen, and it will. It is going to. We just don't know when, so that's why we have to be prepared. All right, 29. And all the inhabitants of Egypt came unto Joseph to buy corn, for the famine prevailed over them, and all their corn was spoiled. And Joseph daily sold it to all the people of Egypt, and all the inhabitants of the land of Canaan, and the Philistines, and those beyond the Jordan, and the children of the east, and all the cities of the lands far and near, heard that there was corn in Egypt, and they all came to Egypt to buy corn, for the famine prevailed over them. All right, so this is what eventually brought Israel there to eventually get back with his son. But and Joseph opened the stores of corn, because he had immense stores. That's what it said before. He had immense numbers of warehouses. And Joseph opened the stores of corn and placed officers over them, and they daily stood and sold to all that came. There was no freebies. And Joseph knew that his brethren also would come to Egypt to buy corn. So again, he knew. The Most High gave him wisdom in dealing with these different things. And he also knew what was going to happen. So he knew that his brethren, remember, he is the son of Israel. So his brothers are the other 11 patriarchs of Israel, the other 11 tribes, Naphtali, Asher, Judah, the other ones, the other ones too, and all of these cats. So Benjamin, so he knew that they were going to come. So let's see what he does. And so it says, and Joseph knew that his brethren also would come to Egypt to buy corn, for the famine prevailed throughout the earth. And Joseph commanded all his people that they should cause it to be proclaimed throughout the land. And again, Joseph commanded all his people that they should cause it to be proclaimed throughout the land of Egypt, saying, it is the pleasure of the king, of his second, and of their great men, that any person who wishes to buy corn in Egypt shall not send his servants to Egypt to purchase, but his sons, and also any Egyptian or Canaanite who shall come from any of the stores from any of the stores from buying corn in Egypt shall go and sell it throughout the land. He shall die, for no one shall buy but for the support of his household. And any man leading 2 or 3 beasts shall die, for a man shall only lead his own beast. So do we see restrictions coming? Do we see the restrictions?
Okay.
Do we see laws changing and rules changing when we get into an emergency type of situation? So we just saw there were rules different rules put in place to manage what's going out. And look, if you buy, I will sell this to you. Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty penny, but if I catch you selling it to someone else, that's a death sentence for you. You can't. It's no eBay over here. You can't resell it. And you can't come over here with your 2 buckets full of stuff. No, you get 1 bucket for your family. If you need some more, you need to come back with that 1 bucket. You can't come with 2. You can't have 2 bags of food. You like because it says any man leading 2 or 3 beasts. Because again, it's like I'm gonna get 3 carloads of equipment or whatever. Nah, you can get 1 for your family and your family only. So we see that again. Different laws and restrictions are put in place in times of famine. We saw that a couple years ago. We see that this happened in history. This happened in antiquity. All right. And it happened, and this was something that was worldwide, because everybody around the world was affected by this whole thing. And any man leading 2 or 3 beasts shall die. You can't even have it. For a man shall only lead his own beast. And Joseph placed sentinels at the gates of Egypt and commanded them, saying, any person who may come to buy corn, suffer him not to enter until his name and the name of his father and the name of his father's father be written down, and whatever is written by day, send their names unto me in the evening, that I may know their names. So they can't buy anything unless they have the mark. So you see, so they need to identify themselves some kind of way. If they're not identifying themselves some type of way, then they can't buy. Do we see that?
Okay.
We see Joseph implemented that. Now he was doing it for a reason, which they're going to reveal, but we still see that this is going to be in place later on. It's prophesied to be in place. So again, these are stories that we glean from, so we can understand how some of these prophecies in the future will play out, because many of these things is nothing new under the sun. It's played out in a certain way before. So they need to identify themselves. They got to identify their name, their father's name, and their father's father's name. And Joseph placed officers throughout the land of Egypt, and he commanded them to do all these things. So they had police officers everywhere. We'll say it like that. They had officers everywhere. And Joseph did all these things and made his statutes in order that he might know when his brethren should come to Egypt to buy corn. And Joseph's people caused it daily to be proclaimed in Egypt according to these words and statutes which Joseph had commanded. So his reason for doing it is because he's really looking out for his fathers and his brothers. His father and his brothers. But we know that the governments of this world are doing it for other reasons, okay? And it's certainly not a righteous situation. And all the inhabitants of the east and west country and of all the earth heard of the statutes and regulations which Joseph had enacted in Egypt, and the inhabitants of the extreme parts of the earth came, and they bought corn in Egypt day after day, and then went away. It's a global economy, right? We're global citizens. We see this again here, right? There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. This is trade, okay? There's nothing new under the sun. And all the officers and all the officers of Egypt did as Joseph had commanded, and all that came to Egypt to buy corn, the gatekeepers would write their names. The gatekeepers would write their names and their fathers' names, and daily bring them in the evening before Joseph. So again, that's just something that we wanted to take a look at, because hopefully we can see how some of these things we've seen an element of them just within the last 2 years. We've seen an element of it. So instructions were given to the people as to how they could deal with it, which is preparing for such occurrences. There's plenty of books out there. There's plenty of information on YouTube and on the internet on how to do some of these different things, so that we can prepare, so that we can begin to prepare ourselves. And again, this is not just buying a little bit of water or a little bit of food. This is also developing skills. This is learning how to garden, learning how to grow food, learning a little first aid in case electricity shuts off and your kids or your relatives or whatever, or your neighbors need some help, and so you can orchestrate CPR, so you can orchestrate, whatever help that someone else may need or that you may need. Maybe you get cut and you need to be able to stitch something up or bandage something up. Learning some type of first aid, having some type of emergency equipment, maybe a little backup generator, backup solar generator, some water filters. We are in an age of convenience right now, where everything is, not everything obviously, but we have a lot of we have computers, we have all this electricity. We have one situation, like I talked about, if the stores shut down, if the infrastructure shuts down, where are we going to go for food? We don't even know. So you're going to be left with whatever you have. So that means, like these people in Egypt, you may want to get more so that you have it in that type of situation, regardless of the season. But what if electricity shuts down? Do we know how to do things manually with our hands? Do we know how to work with our hands? Do we know how to start a fire? Do we know how to do things with our hands as opposed to a machine or an appliance doing them, an electrical appliance? So we need to learn skills, not just buy things. We need to learn skills. And these are the things that are going to help us out, and things that will be of value to other people, things that are going to help save you, things are going to help save your family. Now, of course, ultimately, we need that miracle, and that miracle is prophesied to happen. But it says, he that endures to the end shall be saved. So we have to endure some things. So no, nothing's going to be perfect. We can prepare for everything. It's not going to go according to exactly how we planned, just like it didn't for the people in Egypt. However, we need to do the best that we can to be able to survive as long as we can, or at least help other people survive as long as they possibly can. There's no excuse not to. This fake rapture doctrine, we already know the rapture is fake, and that's not in the Bible, and it's not going to happen. But even amongst Israelites, when we just think that, hey, Yahweh Shai is going to come and he's going to save us and protect us, yes, he will, but when? We don't know that. We don't know that. Remember, the disciples thought that when he came here on land in person, the first time, they thought that's when he was going to overthrow the kingdoms of the kingdoms of this world and give the kingdom back to Israel. That didn't happen. We know about a 400-year prophecy. It says after 400 years. When after 400 years? We don't know. So we don't know. But he's given us plenty of examples of how to do some things to prepare. And he's even given us examples in the Bible of what happened in these different situations. So maybe in another study we'll go over, some of those prophecies, or go over some of those things that happened. But there's plenty of tragedy, plenty It's a lot of stuff in there. So there's a lot of information we can glean from the Bible alone. But there's so many other resources on how you can begin to prepare for yourself. So, prepare for you and prepare for your family. So like I said, not just things that you buy, but skills as well. Self-defense skills. I personally believe in firearms, legal firearms. So, I think that that's a good thing to have on hand, as well as ammunition as well. So again, we need to take these different things seriously. These signs that he said they're going to be signs of the times, and we're seeing these different signs. So we need to make sure that we're getting the message and that we're doing something about the messages that he's receiving. Just like there was a message through a dream, a prophecy through a dream, Joseph went to action. So we have to do these things so he can help us. Okay, he's working with us. He's not working for us. We have to show that we have faith, and faith, the way that we show faith is through action. Works, just like James said. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's about it for tonight. We'll maybe touch base on some of these things some other time. Until then, nobody celebrate Valentine's Day. Y'all ain't know that was coming. Y'all ain't see that one coming. Nah, man, love each other, but not for the purposes of Valentine's Day. That's a wicked day, as these other holidays are. So anyway, with that, we'll go ahead and pray out. Father, thank you so much for this for this lesson. Thank you for this message. It's out here for a reason, because you want us to pay attention to it, and you want us to do something about it. So please give us the wherewithal to do it. Give us the finances to do these different things. Give us the land to do these things. We know that you are our Savior, and know we can't do it ourselves. We cannot do it all ourselves. However, there are some things that we can do, and that's what you tell us to do. You tell us to do these things in the lands of our captivity, and you're going to bring us out of our lands of our captivity. We can't do it for ourselves, but you do want us to do those things that we can, because you have put the men in charge over our families. You have given us directives, and we need to operate on those directives, just as the women do, and just as the children do. We all have a part that we fall in your order. So help us to fulfill that. Help us to protect ourselves in your name and with your authority, and with your grace and your blessings, Father. We ask you to forgive us for our sins. We ask you to give us wisdom, just like you gave wisdom and understanding, just like you gave Solomon, and just like in this example tonight, you gave Joseph in dealing with a feast and famine type of situation. Help us to think about the future and consider those different things. Consider the bad times, because we're supposed to be able to handle both and remain even keeled. I think either Paul or Peter mentioned something like that in the New Testament letters. So just help us to take your word seriously, and not just receive it seriously, but actually live it out and orchestrate it in our own lives and teach it to our children. Please continue to bless us and save us. And we pray and we thank you for your plan and for your instruction. In Yahweh name we do pray. Hallelujah. All right, man. Well, that's it. Shalom, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful night, morning, or whenever you're looking at this. And we'll see you next time.
Look after yourself, Israel. Look after.
Joel 3:16. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake, but the Lord will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel.